Okay, moving on to our discussions. Next, despite efforts by the leadership of the People's Democratic Party to restore peace after the Supreme Court judgment affirming Senator Ahmed Makarfi as PDP's recognized leader, the crisis in the southwest zone of the party may have worsened.
Now, senior correspondent Ayodele Ozugbaku tells us more in this report now.
The People's Democratic Party, one-time Nigeria's ruling party, after losing the 2015 presidential election, slipped into a monstrous leadership crisis that went on for close to 2 years. The intervention of the Apex Court last month gave a ray of hope to the party, with the Ahmed Makarfi-led caretaker committee settling down to reverse the dwindling fortunes of the party. But throwing spanner in the works is the fact that some state chapters and zones of the party are warming up for another showdown. The gladiators this time around are Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Fayose, who is the only PDP governor in the zone, and a senator representing Ogun East, Buruji Kashamu. The two factions are laying claim to the zone. A meeting was held in Ibadan where lead actors and aspirants to the national chairmanship met. The leaders of the party in the southwest called Senator Buruji Kashamu and others loyal to Modu Sharif faction to stop what they called needless crisis. They warned members against colluding with those bent on destabilizing the party.
The entire Southwest leadership and stakeholders condemn the destabilizing and anti-party activities of Senator Buruji Kashamu and demand disciplinary actions against him for his roles in the loss of the party in Ogun, Ondo and Edo State.
If you disrespect or disregard the tenets in our constitution, then you have no right to be a member of this party. If you don't like the heat, you get out of the kitchen.
National people must know that we have to take our destiny in our hands. And as somebody, after Supreme Court judgment, still saying that you should give me Southwest, you should give me the structure of Southwest.
Party faithful loyal to Senator Buruji Kashamu met in Lagos to declare support for the Ahmed Makarfi-led caretaker committee and denounced Eddie Olafeso as the national vice chairman of the zone. They called on Senator Makarfi to stop relating with Governor Ayodele Fayose on issues that have to do with the southwest zone of the PDP.
We demand that he should be called to order before he sounds the death knell on the party in the southwest.
The leadership of the party recently set up a reconciliation committee led by two governors. With the two factions spoiling for war, stakeholders are watching with keen interest to see how far the reconciliation can go. Ayodele Ozugbaku, TVC News, Lagos.
Things must be done properly.
Of course, there are concerns that this development in the Southwest PDP may just scuttle the reconciliation efforts being, made by the PDP at the center.
Well, we hope that that reconciliation, because the final objective, the overall objective is 2019, as far as from what we hear.
Yeah.
But there has to be reconciliation one way or the other. Joining us in the studio is Bolaji Adeniji. He is the Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Ogun State. It's good to have you join us right now, Bolaji. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, Nigerians expected that when the Supreme Court came up with the ruling settling the issues at the national level of PDP, it would have trickled down to all the states that had issues, all the regions that had issues, even the wards that have issues. But this doesn't seem to be the case in the Southwest.
Well, there's a maxim in law that you do not get what you do not ask for. The case that went all the way to the Supreme Court had to do with the national leadership tussle between the Senator Ahmed Makarfi caretaker committee that came out from the May 21st, 2016 National Convention in Port Harcourt and the Senator Ali Modu Sharif National Working Committee that at the time felt that its tenure had not elapsed. So that tussle went all the way to the appeal court where Sharif got the judgment and he took over the reins of the PDP. And the Makarfi group appealed that judgment and the Supreme Court gave its verdict in favor of Makarfi. And now we have a Makarfi as the national chairman of the party. That is the case. But that is different from whatever it is that is happening in the Southwest.
Okay. So
what
what is exactly
is the problem with the Southwest?
Exactly. What is at the root?
Yeah, what is at the root of it?
The root of the issues in the Southwest has to do with tendencies of people who, over time, have had the reins of control and arbitrated the pace of the party in the Southwest. And they feel that that must continue in perpetuity. And the other people and groups within the party are saying, no, we have suffered defeat and losses over the last 1 or 2 electoral cycles in the Southwest. And we cannot continue doing these things the same way and expect a different result. And so therefore, these people came together and emerged via valid congresses in their states, including the Zonal Congress. In 2014 October, there was a Zonal Congress that produced the Makanjuola Ogundipe Southwest Zonal Executive. And by the extant procedures of our party, each executive is supposed to spend a maximum of 4 years in office, which means the Makanjuola Ogundipe Executive will terminate in October 2018. Now, fast forward to 2016. After this world, local, and state congresses that held in 25th April, 5th and 10th May 2016, there was not supposed to be a zonal congress on the 14th of May because there is a substituting executive. But Governor Ayo Fayose and some other elements who are now the protagonists of the trouble in Southwest felt that the party is them, they could appropriate powers that do not belong to them and arrogate powers to them to resemble the party. And they went and gathered in Ibadan to hold a congress, Southwest Congress. But they didn't just hold it, they violated valid and substituting rulings of the Federal High Court. On the 11th of May, the Makanjuola Ogundipe group went to the court of the Federal High Court to say, look, we have a group that are planning to conduct a congress, and our tenure subsists, and that court ruled that they must not conduct any congress.
So there was an injunction?
Injunction. On the 17th of May, after they had conducted the legal congress on the 14th, the same court ruled and cancelled that congress. It was not appealed. And on the 24th of June 2016, a final judgment now came invalidating whatever it is they did and further affirmed Makanjuola Ogundipe ESCO to act until 2018. So that is the status quo. Okay. If you now find any other persons claiming to be executive of the party in the Southwest, it is ultra-virus, it is illegal, it is null and void. And the proponents supporting those people like Ayo Fayose and co are the ones causing the trouble. But so really, there's no crisis. We just have dissidents group trying to foster crisis and lord themselves over the party in the Southwest.
Ahmed McAfee's move to dissolve the executive councils in the states, Adamawa, I think, Adamawa, of course, Ogun, Lagos, Ogun, yes, and a few other states, was because there was crisis already in those states. Yes. And it was necessary to begin to move the party forward since the center, the issue at the center had been resolved. Don't you think that that was the right move to make on the part of Ahmed McAfee if the party is going to make progress from, you know, where it has been?
It may be appropriate in a state like Lagos State because inter alia, the congresses were not conclusive. Don't forget, after the state congresses on 10th May 2016, the 71st NEC meeting under Sheriff Den ratified 31 states as having had their congresses complete, fulfilled all extant processes. Ogun State was part of those states. And when the Senator McAfee came on board, it also recognized that same Congress and Ogun State Executive, among others, and vowed that it was not going to reverse what had been concluded by the previous NEC. Okay? So what has happened? By the time we now got to the National Convention, they now excised Ogun State and Osun State out of the initial 31 validly sealed congresses and dissolved it, purportedly dissolved it, just to appease tendencies that are not ready to subject themselves to the processes of the law. And don't also forget, before now, after the Adebayo executive emerged in Ogun State now, in 2016, 10th of May, prior to that day, they went to the court to say, look, we are suspecting that some people may want to do a parallel Congress. There's a ruling that prevented and barred anybody from doing so. And after the Congresses, they now went again to the court to say, look, enforce our emergence, enforce us so that we can act. And there was a judgment of the Federal High Court.
If Ali Modu Sharif's faction had won at the Supreme Court, would we have had this situation where Buruji Kashamu's, where Kashamu is saying that the move to dissolve these executive councils was illegal, just like what you're saying now? Would it have been different? Or is it because, is it coming from, is it sour grapes, simply?
Let me clear something that is unknown to many people.
Yes.
The victory of McAfee at the Supreme Court is not congruent to the situation in Ogun State. Whether it was McAfee that won, whether it was Sheriff that won, it is not congruent to our position. The current executive under Adebayo Dayo in Ogun State is sacrosanct. It's a creation of the law. It's a creation of the federal judgment of the Federal High Court. And therefore, if anybody has any issues and wishes to disband the executive under Adebayo Dayo, it will simply go to the Court of Appeal to say, please repudiate what the Federal High Court have said. And in any case, the time I allowed for an appeal has lapsed. So it is now a fait accompli. And so therefore, what McAfee ought to have done in the case of Ogun State, if it in its own feelings feel it needs to assuage the feelings of some other interest groups and bring them into the PDP, was to try to appeal if there's that window. And if there's no window of appeal, there's always a starting point for the conciliation. First, obey the law that says these are the valid executives. When you now obey it, you can now begin to talk.
All right, but the national president, the national chairman or acting, whoever the leader of the party is, when it comes from the eye of the Constitution, does he have the powers to suspend or dissolve existing congresses or excos within regions or states?
He has those powers, but advisedly and within the ambit of the law. Whereas Section 33 of the Constitution of our party says the National Convention is the supreme authority over the party. It can do and undo, guaranteed. But don't forget, the Constitution of the PDP itself, and the National Convention are still subject to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In Chapter 1, under the general provisions of the National Constitution, says the Constitution is the supreme authority over every authority and being in the party. And in Subsection 3 of that same provision, it says, if any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution shall prevail. And that other law, to the extent that is inconsistent, shall be null and void. Conversely, the Constitution of the PDP, under general provisions, Chapter 1, Subsection 2 says, this Constitution shall be supreme, subject to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But and like the federal government, the Federal High Court judgment is a provision of the National Constitution, so it is supreme to the National Convention.
Yes.
Therefore, McAfee does not have the power to, the National Convention lacks the power to dissolve the executive in Ogun State subject to the law.
Well, like they say, law is made for man and not man for the law.
Yes.
If the PDP as a party is to make progress and is looking at reconciling aggrieved, elements or members of the party, and even attract or bring back those who had left, for some reason or the other, would it not make sense for all parties involved to say, okay, look, this is what the law says, but on the other hand, we could actually, the PDP always prided itself in saying, look, this is a family matter, we can always solve it. Why is it not being solved now as a family matter in order not to scuttle the reconciliation or the success that's been achieved at the center?
That is a good one. It is never in the interest of any patriotic party man that, okay, our party's issue should be resolved at the court. But you see, when people do not choose to be reasonable and follow processes that is in the books, simply in the books, then, and we also now call ourselves to that, let us talk, and they are not willing to talk, then those who are aggrieved, who subjected themselves to the external processes, will want to enforce it and test those validity of those processes by going to court. Now, what is the way forward? Where do we go for it?
Absolutely.
Are we
Good
going
question.
to continue
That's the
on this
question.
path? There's always a starting point. The starting point should be from the point of law. If people have gone to court, there have been rulings, there have been judgments, and we say, okay, let us talk in the interest of peace. You are not just going to talk by repudiating the law, because we must be seen to protect the law. The law is what guarantees us that we are human beings, otherwise we'll be animals. So if we obey the law, obey judgment, obey rulings of the court, when we now obey, we now say, okay, you other people, come, let's talk. What can we give you? What can we do? What percentage can we share so that we accommodate ourselves? But the starting point
there has to be shifting of grounds.
We will shift ground. And I think the valid executives across board are willing to shift grounds, but the starting point is for the law to be obeyed, and then we can now talk.
All right.
You don't put the law aside, you don't put the constitution aside, and now say,
let us talk.
Let us talk.
Okay. Now, we don't
You
have
can't
all the time,
build
but
nothing
let's, in the overall, if we're looking at the bigger picture here,
Yes.
the Southwest is the region that delivers one of the highest votes when it comes to national elections because of the population there.
Yes.
The Southwest right now is also, when it comes to your party, is one of the most, because it has just one governorship, one state, one governor. So which means that it's dominated by the APC, as the case may be. And you're looking forward to 2019. What impact in the overall will this wranglings have on your ability to clinch the seat in 2019?
You see, one of the signposts of a party that is irrelevant is when you begin to see people jostle to have a stake of it. A dead party does not have anybody. It's not attractive. And because the APC has already defecated on its body and it's now smelling, every other interest groups are beginning to see the PDP as the next alternative because we have learnt our lesson.
But it was the PDP who couldn't, it was Nigerians themselves who rejected the party and decided to choose a new political party.
We became a bit exuberant. We are still too long in power. And of course, we have had people...
And made a lot of mistakes.
Yes, of course, we make mistakes. No matter how long we stay in office, we make mistakes. And this is what we are saying. A lot of our party members who were part of this malady within the PDP are still the ones still saying they want to be there perpetually. Look at
so that means the exuberance and all of that is still there. And you say that you've learned from the mistakes of the past.
The new PDP that we are now talking about must be devoid of all anti-democratic tendencies, must be devoid of trying to lord minority opinion over majority opinion. And it must be devoid of the same faces that created this crisis. Somebody said that you do not resolve a problem with the mindset with which it was created. This paradigm shift is what we are trying to achieve in the PDP in the Southwest. And I can assure you that we still have enough time. In the next couple of weeks, this crisis will, one way or the other, resolve itself. And we'll be back in a position to convince Nigerians that the PDP is the credible alternative to the faltering power party in government at the moment.
All right, Bolaji Adeniji, Publicity Secretary, People's Democratic Party, Ogun State. Thank you for coming on the program.
I'm most obliged.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.